Fear is a tool. But when that light hits the sky, it's not just a call. It's a warning. I've been trying to reach you. Find the God! This is about a king, and Riddler's the match.
I can take care of myself.
If this continues, it won't be long before you've nothing left.
I don't care what happens to me.
It's only gonna get worse for you.
Whoa, take it easy, sweetheart. Hear everything they say, ain't you?
Maybe we're not so different. Who are you under there?
I'm vengeance.
Hello and welcome to this What Do You Want to Watch Spoilercast for Matt Reeves' latest film, The Batman. I'm Ashley Hobley. Joining me today is Dylan Blight.
I don't really have a good Robert Pattinson Batman voice compared to Christian Bale, where I would say, I'm Batman, and you wouldn't hear me.
Well, you've only seen this once.
Cut it out. So, yeah, that's true. That's a good point. But I just saw it, so you'd think I'd be able to imitate it, but I can't. I'm Batman. I'm Batman. Stay
does
away
he ever say I'm
sunlight.
Batman?
No, but he hates sunlight, like he does in Twilight, so...
Alright, so this also serves as the final stop on the road to the Batman. What Do You Want to Watch is look back at the Dark Knight standalone film history ahead of his big screen iteration. If you want to catch up on all our thoughts on all the previous standalone Batman films, you of course check them all out on this What Do You Want to Watch feed, or you can go to explosion.com/The Road to the Batman. You'll find all the episodes there. But yeah, this is a spoiler cast, so please be aware we'll be freely discussing anything and everything about the plot, themes, ending of this movie. So if you haven't watched it, come back later. Of course, it is playing in cinemas everywhere except Russia. So with that said, let's jump into a discussion of The Batman, directed by Matt Reeves, written by Matt Reeves and Peter Craig, based on characters from DC Comics, starring Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz, Paul Dano, Jeffrey Wright, John Turturro, Peter Sarsgaard, Barry Keane, Andy Serkis, and Colin Farrell. Batman ventures into Gotham City's underworld when the sadistic killer leaves behind a trail of cryptic clues. As evidence begins to lead closer to home and the scale of the perpetrator's plans become clear, he must forge new relationships, unmask the culprit, and bring justice to the abuse of power and corruption that has long plagued the metropolis. Dylan, it's been almost 10 years since we've had our last standalone Batman film. Sorry, Ben Affleck, but you know, you were just supporting, to be perfectly honest. Dylan, what did you think of The Batman?
I really liked it. I think it was really good. I think it's not... it's hard because, you know, of course everyone's going to... Any franchise thing, people straight away, it's like, okay, you liked it, so where's it sit, you know, in the ranking? I feel like it's hard to compare to the Nolan things because it's not at all similar. Like, tonally, it's not at all. I think that the major thing that I like the most about this one that's very different to the Nolan stuff is that it, like, where Nolan was sort of committed to just making everything as grounded as he possibly could within that world, I feel like this one's a little bit more in the middle. Like, it feels realistic, but also pushing slightly into that fantasy land, or like where Gotham, I don't know, like a lot of the characters just seem a little bit more elevated than, okay, I guess not to say that there's like magic or shit happening in this, but I feel like it feels a little bit more. It's like, I would describe this movie and this world as both being as if it was directed by David Fincher, but it's not, because it feels like Seven or something like that for the primary part, and like the whole time, like it's directed by Matt Reeves, but I could have if you didn't tell me if you asked me who directed this and I didn't know, I would have gone David Fincher. Like, that would have been my guess. Like, that would have been my go-to guess. So, and I feel like it's a cross between a David Fincher sort of serial killer thing, crossed with the 90s Batman series, where, like the animated series, because I feel like the animated series was trying to be like realistic, but still like comic booky, like especially for the 90s, like it tried to ground some of the villains a bit more. And of course they were a bit more like they were in a comic still, but that series like especially went for the very dark, you know, the 90s series did a lot for Batman. I feel like that's where this sits. So it's hard to compare it to anything else. I feel like it's the most important thing this movie does is it doesn't feel like anything else. So in a world where it could be like, do we need more Batman? And even I, as a big Batman guy, would be like, I don't know. I really don't know if we need more Batman. And like, to be honest, I remember when they announced this, and it wasn't the Robert Pattinson casting, because I obviously was one of those people who was like, that's fine, he's a good actor. Like,
it was more
like there wasn't that. It was just
that they were going to do it after Ben Affleck's.
I was like, maybe
through.
I don't know. I was a bit like, meh. Like, maybe we've had enough Batman, but I really liked
Batman
it.
Now?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if it's hard to say. Like, I enjoyed this movie, but like, do I need more Batman? I don't know. This movie it's a weird one because I would say it's, especially with the way it starts, it's like, it's not it's not proper film noir, although it's obviously influenced by that. So it's like somewhere melding between a serial killer, like, that's what I'm saying, David Fincher, like Seven, or Zodiac, I guess it would be the two like main movies that sort of come
in my review. I mentioned Zodiac, Seven, and then Prisoners as well, obviously. Because Paul Dano's in that, it probably.
I was about to say because Paul Dano's in it.
And also, we watched it recently, but yeah.
I'd be highly surprised. I mean, I literally just came out of the theater, so I'm like, sort of like just rattling off my initial thoughts here, obviously. And you haven't posted your reviews.
No, I literally just finished the first draft, so I'll go back over it.
I'll be shocked because you watched this with Buddy, and I'll be like, he's going to do his own podcast on Radio Watson, but I'll be shocked if he doesn't mention David Fincher because he's a big David Fincher fanboy. Yeah. So, if I'm thinking Fincher, surely he's thinking Fincher. And then, what was I going to say? It's like a cross between that but the thing that it doesn't commit to it is a sort of like my one sort of, like if I'm like trying to come up with negatives, because for the most things, and we'll discuss more specifics about like characters and whatever in a minute as we do, but like I have nearly all positives, but I'd say like tonally, I almost feel like I wish it would have committed more to like the film noir narration and stuff like that throughout the entire movie, instead of it starting and then just sort of disappearing and then coming back at the end and stuff like that. I was like, no, just commit to it. Do a full like narration thing. Fuck it. And I didn't love the ending. And by ending, not so much what happens, but just I guess the last 15 minutes, it just kind of felt very
everything post
sloppy.
Arkham.
Or just even like it just sort of like credits. Like I'm like, stuff happens, and it just like for a movie that's 3 hours long, it was like, and he leads him out. You get that really cool shot that reminds me of The Dark Knight, when like Frank Miller's Dark Knight, that which I presume it's sort of taking off the top. You know, when walking through with the cops or whatever, leading the people out with the what do you call it? The flash, the flare. Yes, very Dark Knight looking. And then the comic, not the movie. But then after that, they're like, and like monologuing, you know, October 3rd, whatever, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We get the weird Joker thing, which we can come back to. I'll say straight up now, don't like that at all. Felt very weird for that to be in this movie. And then just I don't know, I feel like that whole 15 minutes just was like, and everything will be okay. Wrap up. I don't know, it felt like too happy for this movie. Like, because I'd say this movie is probably the darkest Batman movie, like even darker than any of the Nolan ones. And even though you said watching Dark Knight Rises, you felt like there was like no hope in that movie at all. Like, it's just like all down and down. I feel like this one's more down and down than any, until the end where it's like, but everything will be okay. If not, like, it felt like almost too happy and rushed to a degree. I'm like, the movie's only 3 hours. Like, go 3 hours 15. I don't fucking care. Like already at this stage. So they're sort of my main complaints, I guess. But otherwise, I thought it was really good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm probably going to give it a pretty high score. So my final, at time of recording, my final paragraph is, with his focus on telling a fantastic crime thriller, Matt Reeves has managed to bring the Batman comics to life in a way no director has made a Batman film that should be held in the same regard as the 1989 Batman and The Dark Knight. With amazing performances in front of the camera and behind the camera, the Batman deserves to be seen on the big screen. So I ate it all up. Like, I was riveted from start to beginning. Sure, it is 173 minutes long, but, but sections of that just flew by. I think this take on the Batman is very interesting. I think I agree with you. Really enjoyed the narration elements. And I wish there was more of that, but also because it is so juxtaposed with the version of Batman that we get in this by Robert Pattinson, a version of Batman who is kind of the strong silent type, very much to the point, isn't the suave Bruce Wayne type we've seen in the Christopher Nolan trilogy. He is got an element of social awkwardness about him, which I appreciate and totally makes sense for a guy who's kind of been driven by revenge his entire life, I think, across the board, the cast is stellar. We'll talk about everything. I think there's a few ups and downs. The ending is a bit, I can understand what you say, where it's a bit rushed, or a bit too hopeful, but I think it's interesting. This is the story of him learning the hero thing of, vengeance is not the end all and be all, and, saving people is what's really important, The thing that Spider-Man learned halfway through the Amazing Spider-Man is like.
I feel like my problem is that they explain that by him doing the monologue, and I don't feel like I see that moment. Like, it's not. Is it that moment where he carries that one woman to the thing? Like, that's the one moment. Because if so,
no, it's the moment of him. All the people
pulling the people out of the water,
getting the kid. That's the moment.
Okay.
The kid who's pretty much just let's be honest, a younger version of Bruce Wayne, whose parent was murdered in almost the same fashion and that kind of thing. All the other people under that barricade are totally terrified of Batman, and this little kid is willing to, follow him.
Let me change the movie then. I would change it so. Because that whole scene's just music. No one says anything. Like, as he's like gets out of the water, it's all slow motion. They bait
you would put the monologue over that.
I would start the monologue over there and have him writing. It was in that moment, I realized then that what I needed to offer people was hope, not vengeance. You know what I mean? Something like that. I feel like to help sell because I understood what the point of this movie was and what the story was. I just don't feel like they nailed it.
Yeah, I feel like obviously you don't need to be so. I think we all know where it's going to go, so maybe they rested on the laurels a little bit. But
it's not even that. It's because the movie already uses narration. So any other movie, I'd say don't use narration because I hate narration as a tool. But I'm like, if you're doing the narration film noir thing, that's
do it more.
where you would do it. Like that's if you do it the whole movie and have him do it there. Like,
I know. I found that moment in the water effective, even though I will admit the major third act sudden turn of this environmental disaster, not exactly the best timing for us here in Brisbane. This week, apologies to any of you out there who watch the Batman living in Brisbane or northern New South Wales and feel a little bit triggered with this sudden flooding.
I didn't even think about that. That's a very good point. Yeah.
I mean, jeez. It's pretty brutal. But yeah. What did you think of Robert Pattinson's version of Batman?
I really liked it. I feel like it's, it is the whole, like, how many scenes of him do you even get as Bruce? Like, 3, maybe? Like, of it, like, you get, like, maybe a couple scenes
outside of the
Alfred. And you get one scene of him outside where he's at the funeral. Not counting like him like like with the helmet on, and then he puts the Batsuit on when he arrives where he wants to get. Like, I'm not counting that.
Yeah.
The movie makes it, the Batman. The movie is Batman. The movie doesn't fuck around and do the same story that we already got with several other films, including Nolan stuff, where it's like, oh, that's his real person, and Bruce is the facade, and all this stuff. This movie is just like, this version of Bruce Wayne is just a shell. Like, he just like, it doesn't even exist to the point that when he's at home, he just doesn't even talk to anyone, doesn't want to talk to anyone, has no interest in not only keeping up the Wayne enterprises, but even like keeping face and doing the whole pretending to be a philanthropist in public. Any of that stuff that we're kind of used to seeing, he's just like, no, I'd really give two fucks. Like, completely committed to the being
mission.
Batman. So yeah, the mission, I guess.
The project.
The project. This movie, I feel like this, and we said this going in, is like, I felt like this was drawing from Year One, the comic, which I still feel like it does slightly. But then there's also some, I guess, Long Halloween and No Man's Land stuff still here and whatever else to a degree. So, but yeah, the whole Year One thing was the project and stuff that reminded me of that, and the bike and that sort of
like
shit.
Year Zero and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, Zero, sorry,
Yeah. I think it's a really interesting version of Batman, like I said. And I enjoy like the lo-fi element of this iteration. He like doesn't have a ton of like crazy gadgets. I think the most high-tech thing he's got is the contact lens camera. Like that's the most kind of really. The most far-fetched kind of element of the entire film. And yeah, I think, I really enjoy like, obviously this take of Batman is like a version who's also willing to like step out of the shadows. He's willing to fight people one-on-one and like, or take on 1-on-7, like straight up, like no hiding in the shadows, and like take element of surprise. Like that opening, that first time you see Batman coming out of that subway, heavy boots, like ready to beat up a bunch of people. It's freaking cool.
I feel like it's funny because this movie, it's like Nolan was the last proper trilogy we had, and that version of Batman loved playing in the dark, and I was born in the darkness. No, you weren't, mate. You adapted to it. So he loved using that sort of stuff, but you never got any of the detective stuff. So this movie, you get the detective stuff, but he's just a brawler. Like, he's not the stealthy side. It's just go in and punch, but also you get to see a lot more detective sort of analyzing in this one because, in part, I guess, because it is the Riddler than other villains, I guess, to a degree. But we didn't really get to see that as much in the other ones. Like maybe Bruce would bring home one thing, they'd scan it and be like, "Oh, this is a fucking so-and-so person thing." Like it was never really having to work things out. It was just sticking it into a computer and the computer being like, "Here's the thing, information."
Yeah. They'd be like, I'm trying to figure out what the Joker's doing, or what's Bane's plan. But there wasn't the same detective work elements that you obviously get through this. It feels like a real, like we said, listed all those films before. Like, you've got James Gordon, played by Jeffrey Wright, I think, who is perfect foil for this version of Batman. Great. They have like a great relationship and like able to bounce like in a weird way. I just Robert Pattinson's awkwardness in these films also plays perfectly against Jeffrey Wright. Like I did pull that punch. It's like I feel like he's just got a level of unawareness that I really find it amusing, but also like makes sense for like this character who has shut himself off from the world and that kind of thing. Like he's not one for social grace.
Yeah. I feel like Jeffrey Wright was, when he was cast, I was sort of like, he's going to be great for that. Based solely off his performance in Westworld, which I guess he plays, I don't know, like the way he plays that role, I could see fitting into a Gordon-esque sort of thing. So that's sort of what this is, even though he's in other things. But I really enjoyed him in this. I feel like you don't get this, you never have to deal with seeing the whole how they became friends. It's like, we don't need to see that, but
we don't need to see why they trust each other implicitly.
Yeah, he's just like, they trust each other and that's fine. So, movie works that way.
Yeah. Of course, we got Paul Dano as the Riddler. Fucking creepy. That first shot that he shows up in the darkness in the back. Fantastic. Like, this is a beautifully shot film. There's a lot of these reveals in, like, darkness throughout the... Like, incredible.
Yeah, so a kid left my cinema. I think he looked about 5 or 6.
What?
Yes. So he looked about 5 or 6. He started covering his eyes and then proceeded to stand up and like tell his mum that they needed to leave. Beckon her away. And while proceeding to look away at the screen because he didn't want to watch anymore.
Oh no.
And then they had to leave.
Super sad. They got murdered in an alley and this is going to be bad.
So which of course I'm sitting there just going, you dumb motherfucker. Like he
you just do any basic reading about this movie. What? Sure, the kid loves Batman Brave and the Bold, but come on.
Oh, it's a Batman show. It must be for kids. Fucking 10 minutes into it, this person's getting like belted over the head with a fucking thing and murdered while there's a creepy dude in the background with a scary ass mask on, like shadows and shit. It's like, fucking hell. Then like 20 minutes later, this dude with a saw fucking jigsaw design thing on his face. It's like, this movie ain't for kids.
No. Dude, yeah, me and Buddy obviously went to advanced screening and there's this little girl in like a Catwoman suit. I'm like, wonder what happened there. It's like,
I mean, look, if you reckon your kid's like fine to watch it, that's on you. But that mum, I hope she felt bad when she got home because you completely misjudged that one, didn't you, mum?
No, Dad was very persuasive and was very disappointed to leave. Yeah, so not for kids. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah, not for kids.
Yeah, but Paul Dano, like, super creepy in that mask, and then like the slow like reveal of his motivations and like that final scene in the Arkham made it all worthwhile. Like
with the Joker or with Batman?
With Batman.
Okay, the one with Batman, yes. The other thing, no. Yeah, I really liked it. I think my little favorite thing that made me laugh though, because I'm wondering the whole movie, like, what the fuck is this mask? Like, where's this come from? But then when he's watching that video, he's like recorded to his 4chan followers, which I'll come back into in a second. But when he's like doing that, and there's a comment section on the side, and someone asks like, "What is that? Like tape or something?" And I don't remember exactly what it said, but it was like, "It's a nighttime something." So if you want an explanation of what the mask is, it's and I think it was him replying because it had like some stupid ass username or whatever on the side there. So I don't know why I noticed that, but that's there. But yeah, I mean, that's how I took it anyway. He's a 4chan, 8chan, whatever, sort of inspired killer to a degree. Because even though they don't say that's what it is at the end, he's got this massive, or quote unquote massive, 500 followers or whatever they say he has on some random website. Massive. He's talking to people. He manages to, and he talks about like doing things and killing people and taking revenge for. So, and then he gets a bunch of incels to go follow through on his plan and shoot people. So, I mean, that's how I read it. Like, it's Joker, but inspired by 4chan, which is a modern serial killer origin story. I mean, that is the origin story of, like, 21st century's recent serial killers, even though we don't call them
minus the
killers, but
cryptic element.
Yeah, but honestly. I mean, just those sorts of people, those scum of the earth sort of, especially because they're usually younger, the ones who write, that fucking gibberish they'll leave, like, what do they call them? I don't even know. They'll write their 100 million page Bibles about why life sucks and how because the girl didn't love them, they got to go shoot up a school or whatever. Like, that's how I took this version of Riddler to be that sort of...
Yeah, but also him believing he's completely justified in his actions.
Yeah, well, they do too. That's the thing.
Yeah, so, I guess. But also that Batman would be on his side. And that... Oh, man, the noise that he makes when he realizes Batman doesn't agree with him. This is not how I thought this was going to go.
That's exactly the whole movie. I'm like, man, they kind of wasted Paul Dano because they just got him like just creeping around, not really saying much or whatever. And then it all pays off when you get to that scene. You just get to see exactly what I wanted when they cast him. I was like, we're gonna get
the scene in the coffee shop. Like, that's. I mean,
creepy ass smile and everything. I just ordered a French toast or whatever the fuck he says.
Oh man, I think even all the Riddler stuff and like all the different like videos that he shoots, like creepy throughout the entire film. I think the mystery throughout the whole film about what his motivations are and what he wants to do is brilliantly told. Like it's entirely set up so he can murder Falcone. Like, take down the man who's behind everything in Gotham. Like, the actual mayor of Gotham. And how that's kind of interestingly bookended, with him murdering the mayor in name only. And then killing the actual mayor of Gotham at the end of the film. I completely forgot John Turturro was going to be in this movie as well. So it was a surprise when he showed up.
I had forgot in the lead up, but when he showed up, my brain was like, did I know? And then I was like, yes, I did know this. The other thing I'll say before we move on from Riddler and stuff, the other really good bait and switch I liked is the way they play the scene with Bruce Wayne.
Yes.
Bruce Wayne. And the look of Robert Pattinson's face, like obviously because he's got the mask on, but you can see it in his eyes that he's like not wanting to say anything and they make sure to show the camera and he doesn't want to say it, but it almost feels like he's getting close to just being like, what do you want from me? Yes, you've discovered my secret or, something like that.
Because it's also set up beforehand with the letter sent to Bruce.
Yeah, and all that sort of stuff, yeah. And the stuff on the wall in his house, unmasked, we know who you are, I know who you are, all this sort of stuff. The video that I assumed was revealing who Batman was, and like it was all played that way to the point that I believed it. And then the whole scene's playing out, and I'm feeling the exact same way that
Super
Bruce is. I'm like, he knows who you are. And it's like tense and everything. And then when he says, what I can't remember the exact line he says, where he like
he's the only one I didn't get.
Yeah, he's the only one. Oh, he's the only one we didn't get.
Yeah.
Or whatever, yeah. That's what he says. He's the only one we didn't get. And that's when, Batman steps forward and he's like, he suddenly realizes he doesn't actually realize it's him. And he starts going his tirade about calling him a sick fucking cunt. Off his face. Yeah, it was good shit. That was a really good sort of...
So perfectly put together, like set up. Like even in the room where Batman's looking at like the camera. Yeah. I think that's such a perfect little insert thing to build up the tension. And yeah. I think they told this Riddler story perfectly, even though it is like super far departure from the comics and that kind of stuff. I think they built it up as well. I also will say, I really appreciated that we did watch Let Me In before this, because there is almost a shot-for-shot remake of Richard Jenkins in the back of the car in this film.
It's true.
Even with a little bit of an upgrade from that mask, but... Speaking of that movie, that was heavily a romance movie, and this is kind of weirdly heavily a romance movie as well, between Batman and Selena Kyle, who is brilliantly played by Zoe Kravitz, maybe the closest iteration of Selena Kyle we've seen on screen.
I feel like it definitely is the closest. I feel like she's nothing against
Michelle Pfeiffer or Anne Hathaway.
No, Anne Hathaway. Michelle Pfeiffer doesn't count. She's still. Last I look, she's still backflipping. I looked over there on Google Maps. She's there. She's backflipping still. Anne Hathaway was good. I really liked Anne Hathaway for that movie, but I feel like as far as like if you want to go comic book accurate, not a term I love, but that's what I would say this Zoe Kravitz version of Catwoman is.
Yeah. Yeah, she definitely fills that femme fatale kind of role throughout the film. And like, obviously, it's I will admit, kind of creepy the way she's kind of introduced with like Robert Pattinson's Batman, just watching her through a window as she undresses. That was kind of weird, but other than,
I don't know, I feel like it's... I feel like the thing with Batman and Rome, I don't feel like any Batman movie has got the romance and his like general interest in the women of the DC universe ever done correctly on film, because Batman does have a lot of romances, as Batman or as Bruce or
as any character who's been
both.
around for 80 years does.
Yeah, but he's got some some of the comics. He gets some quite steamy, sex scenes and stuff like that in the comic books. They do sometimes, both between either Selena or
Talia
al Ghul, yeah. So I feel like this is the only movie that sort of plays on that like sexual tension correctly. And although yes, he does watch her through the window getting undressed, he's not watching her to get undressed.
Yeah,
he's
it's not
to see what
for
she does.
that, but
yeah.
you know.
And I would say that the other thing that this does,
it is also weird, also interesting to obviously see that shot and of him looking through binoculars or whatever. When you've got the opening of the movie, which is
you thought it was the
Riddler looking through
Riddler at first, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I also feel like compared to like if you're going to compare it to Michelle Pfeiffer, whose outfit is ridiculous, and it was just like going for like most not even practical to get
it was
like
to be incredibly stylish and like fit Tim Burton's view.
Yeah, it was meant to be like this. It's like, oh, that's sexy because she can't breathe. Also, I feel like this movie does a good job, or at least in my opinion. Like, it'd be more interesting to get a woman's opinion, I guess. But I feel like it does a good job of capturing the I guess the sexiness of Catwoman as a character without it being overtly like male gazy.
Yes.
Is what I would say. But yeah, I would be more interested to hear if a woman would agree with me, or if I'm just
speaking out
of my ass.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you can feel like the chemistry between them. Like, even though, like I said, Robert Pattinson doesn't talk a lot, Selena does. And, a lot of their romance. But
that's how it works in the comics.
It's true.
Yeah.
A lot of their romance is kind of unspoken. And, like, obviously, you've got that first scene where he's holding her. It's like, you can feel something. And it's also greatly assisted by, like, Michael Giacchino's score, which is fantastic throughout the film. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's really interesting the direction they take Selena. I guess they kind of imply she's bisexual as well. That's an interesting kind of twist. It kind of implied that she was with the girl at the start of the movie that she was living with.
Could be.
And then also the big twist halfway through, she's Falcone's daughter. Which I didn't see coming.
That's fine.
That's cool.
Whatever, like, connection doesn't really affect either character.
Yeah, it doesn't affect either, but yeah. And, like, it kind of gives her a reason to want to take him down. And, like, yeah. Zoe Kravitz can kick anybody's ass in this movie.
Yeah, she's great. She's, I feel like Zoe Kravitz has had, maybe, like, it's hard to say because we both know who Zoe Kravitz is for different sorts of things that, like, you liked her for a lot from High Fidelity. I've liked her a lot from other things, be it Mad Max or Big Little Lies and, shit like that. So I feel like though this could be her breakout thing, like mainstream breakout thing, I'd say, because she still hasn't, I wouldn't say she's hit mainstream sort of recognition. No, which
is crazy because like she was obviously in Mad Max, which was like, that's going to be like,
it was a bit role though, I guess.
I guess. She was
just one of the brides.
Yeah, and she was also a bit role in like X-Men First Class and I think First Class.
Bit role in Fantastic Beasts too as well. I mean.
Yeah. Which is interesting because they showed the trailer for like, I'm like,
they did show me a trailer for too. It said next year. I'm like, isn't it this year?
Yeah.
This old trailer.
that was the interesting thing. They showed the trailer from a while ago. The new trailer dropped that day.
Did it? Oh,
yeah.
I haven't been paying attention. My care factor's pretty low. But no, she's fantastic, and I feel like her story is really good because it's nothing like. Although you get the Batman asking for help in that scene or whatever, like really she has this entire movie. She has her own story. It doesn't feel like her story becomes entangled in Batman's. Even by the end where they're after the same thing, but she's after for her very own reasons. Like the whole movie, she's just like their goals align or whatever, but she's her own character. Like it's not.
She's chasing.
She doesn't become a Batman sidekick sort of thing. So
No, yeah, like I said, femme fatale, modern femme fatale. Yeah, she's fantastic. Colin Farrell, completely unrecognizable. Doesn't look like him. Doesn't sound like him. It's fantastic though. I really enjoyed him.
I remember ever since that first trailer drop where they show the car scene, it's just like yelling and
How impressive was
I
that?
got you now and all that sort of shit.
That was a cool car chase.
It was a very cool car chase. Although some of the editing there, I think around where the trucks were crashing and shit, I was a bit confused about who went where.
The timing was a
going.
little bit off, you know.
It was a little bit like, I don't know. There's a trick to editing and there's a magic to like keeping hectic stuff still so the audience can keep track what's still going on. And I'd say they lost the magic there for a second, but nonetheless, his Penguin's really good. I feel like again, it's just this heavy makeup. He almost he's the character in this movie that looks the most comic booky because he has this ridiculous makeup and prosthetics and whatever else going on. But he's still, again, like going for that semi-realistic. He doesn't like he's not like fucking walking around or like a penguin feet or got the nose or, anything like that. No. It's just meeting somewhere in the middle, which is good. But I really liked his performance in this. I like sticking to him as this. It's sort of an origin story for him too, almost, this movie, I guess. Yeah. Like him becoming
the top guy.
Now he's going to be the top dog, and then he'll forever want to be the top dog, and that's his sort of story. He like throughout most Batman comic books, unless they're doing maybe some of the older ones. But any recent stuff, he's always been mob related, and it's just him fighting other mob people.
Yeah, he's kind of this figure that Batman doesn't really take down. He's big enough to be a problem, but not big enough to take him out. Yeah, kind of thing. I think it was really interesting, and like the Iceberg Lounge is a cool setting, and like
it's like one of the main places in the movie as well.
Yeah, one of the ways they use it each time is really interesting, and like
that's Tweedledee and Tweedledum, right?
Yeah, possibly. You could read it as that.
I took it. That's how I read it.
They called them just the twins, but it could easily be. Yeah,
I read it.
I mean, that's a realistic way to take it.
Yeah. They're just twins. They're not really dumb characters, like based on Alice in Wonderland, but they're just sort of dumb twins because they come across dumb. So I was like, the twins, they're dumb. I'm going Tweedledee and Tweedledum.
Sure.
If I'm waiting for someone to ask. If someone hasn't asked this in the interview or doesn't soon to Matt Reeves, then I'll be highly disappointed.
Yeah. Okay. Also, I know we saw only a glimpse of it, like a small section in the trailer, but the muzzle flash dark hallway shot, freaking cool. The extended version, like one of the coolest things you'll see on cinema this year.
That's true. Thank you, Rogue One.
Shoutouts to who's the Greg Fraser, the cinematographer, who's probably, I imagine, another director, cinematographer of Dune, probably going to get another nomination next year.
You know what else he was a director of photographer of that I looked up before?
Rogue One. The Mandalorian.
No, he's the cinematographer of Rogue One.
Yeah.
Like legit.
Yeah.
It's funny. Yeah. But I mean, he most recently did do Dune, yes. But the Rogue One thing, I was like, wow, okay. Mr. Hallway over here.
That didn't click, yeah. I just thought like you bring up Rogue One, I'm like, yeah.
No, I'm bringing up Rogue One because of the Vader scene.
Yeah. That's fair.
Oh, yeah. See?
Australian as well, that's pretty cool. Andy Serkis as Alfred, I think is probably the weakest part of this movie. I think, not because Andy Serkis is bad or anything, just because the way they utilize him, I think, as like, we know he's like a pseudo father figure, but then you get the angsty, you're not my dad treatment from Bruce, and then he disappears for half the movie. He gets blown up, and then he disappears for another half of the movie.
Yeah, this movie is less interested in making Alfred a constant sort of in the ear, like Batman's on the street by himself. He's not talking to Alfred. He's not in communication with Alfred. Alfred's aware of what's going on, and you know he's helping him, and you see him like sort of crack some of the code and help him there. But their relationship is like not a bad one. It's just sort of you gather straight away that it's just one that's it's not full of love, even though by the end of the movie, Bruce
They
admits
tell you
that-
it's
yeah, they have love for one another, and even Bruce admits that at the end. And I feel like the hospital scene was a nice moment, like for those characters. I don't feel like the thing is, I liked Andy Serkis in this, but yeah, it's probably the least interesting character in the movie. But also that's just in part because this movie's not really
Film was
interested
interested,
in Bruce, and
That's
they
true.
don't
That's the
really
thing.
have yeah.
It's the Batman, not Bruce.
Yeah, and it really doesn't have time for Bruce, for
And because
Alfred in this movie.
Alfred's not committed
unfortunately.
completely to the Batman.
Yeah,
That's a good read on it, I think. Yeah. Interesting. I thought it was interesting. Obviously, we've got this big mystery of all the riddles and all the different corrupt people that they're building up. Interesting the direction they went with the Wayne family. With, you know, turns out that Thomas Wayne, like, kind of got Carmine Falcone to, like, intimidate a reporter. Which I kind of took as, like, kind of being taken from the Telltale games, which in those, he's an actual mobster. But this is a little bit more of a toned down version of that, and I thought it was kind of interesting, especially because we've always been taught that, like, Thomas Wayne was a saint. He was a doctor. You know, he helped people. But yeah, I think adding these shades of grey to it kind of make it interesting, especially for Bruce, in that small, admittedly small period in which, between where he gets told by Falcone and when he confronts Alfred.
I think it's important for this version of Bruce because this version that we get set up is black and white. Like you from the outset, there's either you're good or you're bad, you know? And even when he's talking to Catwoman in that scene where he thinks that she was going to take the money, he's like super aggressive towards her because he thinks that suddenly she's on she's crossed that line, and now there's no level of grey in his world. You're a good guy, you're a bad guy, and if you're a bad guy, you deserve to die, you deserve to go to prison, you deserve me to beat your fucking face into a pulp. Like, there is no in between. And that's all built around his father as the, you know, this guardian angel, like, can do no wrong, doctor figure. So then when that breaks, and when he has that, when he finds out that his father did dip his toe into the dark side of there, sort of ruins his whole perception of what good and bad is. But ultimately, by the end of the movie, I guess that's what leads him to getting out of this whole vengeance thing and understanding that there is more than just two sides of a coin sort of thing.
Yeah, I think it's like an interesting direction, and like you could also, you know, interesting that they say Martha had like mental issues and it was in Arkham for a period. Like that could be interesting because obviously they're they've planned to do more of these movies, so that could be something they explore in the future, in all different kinds of possible directions. Yeah, is there any other major thing for the most of the movie that you want to talk about? Was the Batsuit too overpowered? He got shot a lot.
Yeah, but like by the end he was fucked. So like there is a limit. It's no different. It's just heavy duty armor. I don't feel like it's unrealistic. At least maybe it's like pushing the line of unrealistic, but not to the degree it ruins it.
I do love the fact that it seems like he's carrying that Batsuit around in his backpack while he's motorcycling around the city at night.
That's how I took it, yeah. I mean, he's just got motorcycle boots on. He has his makeup on and a cowl, and he puts a cowl in the suit in his backpack, and he's good to go. I was trying to think if there was anyone else I wanted to talk about. I don't really think so, no. No specific characters.
We'll also say I love him jumping off the top of the police station.
Yeah, they instead of doing the whole his cape can actually fly thing in this one, which isn't actually realistic unless they do what they did in the Nolan ones where it's got that nanobots or some shit that makes it like go hard and let him
electricity
fly.
or whatever.
Yeah,
static.
In this, they're like, nah, just gotta
needs to put on a flight suit.
Put a parasuit thing or whatever they're called. I don't actually know what they're called, but one of those things.
And then he bites it super hard.
Yeah, I thought he died.
No, he's got up. It's perfectly fine.
I will say I really enjoyed Peter Sarsgaard being a whimpering piece of shit in this.
Yeah, sleazy DA.
Yeah, DA. I did enjoy that.
I mean, his section with the collar bomb, that was great.
Yeah, that's from Saw.
I mean, yeah, but like obviously him trying to solve all these riddles, and like setting it up that he's not going to tell Batman who the rat is. This entire time, so yeah. I will say the only thing is like the plot line that like of the rat thing, the winged rat Spanish thing, that kind of went in a weird direction for the mystery wise for a little bit. It just turns out URL, it's the URL or whatever. Yeah, that was a bit weird, and a little bit hard to follow.
It was there was like 3 or 4. They got 3 or 4 things out of that one riddle. I feel different. Yeah. It just took them in 3 or 4 different directions.
I mean, that's how real detectives. I know people want to say that will say, "Oh, you didn't solve it straight away." It's just like that's not how a real detective works.
No, yeah, you got to pull at all leads, you know. I will. The other thing that I don't know if it doesn't ruin them. Like I'm fine with it, but the one thing I was like as I was driving home just before this, trying to like sort of wrap my head around was like, why didn't he just shoot Falcone any other day? I guess
because he wasn't coming out.
Like he doesn't leave at all.
No, it seems like
Okay, because I was like, either he
or if he does, he just otherwise he would just have to stay in that spot 24 hours, 24/7.
Or I guess like he needed the whole theater of it. That's because I was like, I mean, like you could have done that any other night.
Yeah,
if you just wanted him dead, but I guess it's not really. He wants the whole theatrics involved and Batman being there and whatever.
Yep, and then oh man, his place, in like the big reveal of why that murder tool was so important. That was pretty cool. Of like revealing his bigger plan underneath the floor. Also, again, the bat symbol turning out to be used as a knife several times. The first time it was amusing. Second time it was like, okay. But I enjoyed it. It's like, yeah. I guess a couple of points as to the future of the Batman. Obviously, we get the Joker at the end, talking to the Riddler in Arkham. You're not a fan of this, it sounds like.
No. It felt forced. It almost felt Warner Brothers forced. Like, it just felt off for the movie. Because I feel like every other character... Like, the movie's just... It's 3 hours long, but it's... I wouldn't say any scene could be cut, really. You could maybe... You could maybe fasten up some scenes here and there. Maybe you could make the opening go a bit faster, you know? Like, because I feel like that opening sort of monologuing thing goes for a bit or whatever. Like, I'm sure you could get this maybe down to 2.5 hours, but it wouldn't be as... But it's 3 hours, it's fine. And I feel like anything's here that shouldn't be other than that scene, solely to potentially set up a sequel. And I don't feel like it's necessary at all to do the let's chuck Joker in to get a pop. Does nothing. It did nothing for me, personally. I was like, I don't care. It's different. I feel like the thing is, it's a lot different compared to when Marvel does stuff like that, because we're so accustomed to it now and you expect it, and it's because we watch Marvel movies as TV shows. We don't watch Marvel movies as movies. We watch them as long episodes. They're theatrical TV episodes on the big screen. Or at least that's how I look at them now at this stage, and I don't really judge them as their own things. DC doesn't have that. DC is still... they're doing movies, so this felt like a unnecessary thing, and it's did need to be here, but whatever. It doesn't really affect my overall thoughts on the movie. I just thought it was a dumb scene.
I liked it. It was fine. Like, it's interesting to set up in kind of a weird parallel to Nolan's trilogy, potentially, of the second movie, having the Joker come. And it potentially... I'm more excited about the potential of the Riddler returning, like, as... with the Joker.
Yeah. Like, you put the Joker in any movie, everyone else is overshadowed. And all anyone cares about is the Joker. I'm joking out. I'm done with the Joker, I feel. Like, do we need more Batman? Sure, I'll take more Batman. Do I need more Joker at this stage? Fuck no. I'm putting a full-on no on Joker. There's so many Batman villains. There are so many DC villains that you could even pull in and have Batman face off against. I'm over the
arch
Joker.
enemy, Dylan. He's the arch enemy.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck. Like, wait until this movie's
They're
60.
destined to do this forever.
I don't care. I'm destined to watch him fucking do it forever, apparently. Jesus Christ.
But how do you feel about Barry Keane as the Joker? It's an interesting pick. And obviously it'd been long rumored and like talked about, and like interesting that he gets a starring title card for...
Does he?
Yeah. Did you see his name show up in the credits with like all the other big name people?
On
Wikipedia, he's listed as starring in. Yeah.
How weird. That's odd.
Also,
yeah,
apparently there was another deleted scene in which he appears. So whether that would have like made it a little less awkward, I guess, for you. But
he's got prosthetics for a fucked up mouth.
I thought at first it was Two-Face because he looked all scarred up on.
Yeah, but it's just the mouth, so
yeah,
that's the Joker. Yeah, I don't know. Whatever. I can't really judge.
You can only judge on not wanting the Joker.
It was a version of the Joker. It's nothing against him, his performance, or in that very short scene. It's nothing to do with, that was the worst thing ever. I don't want to see that. I just don't want to see the Joker. I'd rather see Kite Man. Or fucking Calendar Man, you know what I mean? Like,
that could be interesting.
James Gunn's over here turning Polka Dot Man into a character we all suddenly care about.
Peacemaker.
Okay.
Into a household name.
Yeah. And I gotta deal with the Joker again. Come on, there's a lot of characters. Let's bring some new characters in. The Riddler's fine. Like, I understand that Riddler's a big Batman villain, but he's only ever been in one movie and he was done terribly, so that doesn't count. Joker, every franchise, every time. He's back, he's at it again, he's in Gotham, he's in this, he's in that, he's in everything. Fuck off. Over you.
You've been all jokered out.
I'm joked out, you know. No laughs from me.
Another interesting tidbit that I think, could easily be overshadowed. In the final fight, Batman is beaten down. He sees someone about to kill Catwoman.
He injects himself with venom?
Yes.
Well, that's how I took it.
Yes, that's exactly what he did.
Yeah. I mean, it's green, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I took it as venom.
So that could potentially... next film could potentially be following that Venom storyline. In which, he becomes kind of addicted to using drugs to enhance himself. Which would be an interesting take.
He has no energy to even lean up and look. He leans over, gets a green vial, injects himself with it, and he just blasts and goes full aggressive, beats the living shit out of it, dude, to the point he can't even stop himself unless he's pulled off. It's Venom.
Yeah.
I feel like, that's give me that movie. Keep the Joker away from it. Fuck off.
What if the opening is him beating the shit out of the Joker? And that's all we get from the Joker.
Just kills him
by accident because he's on Venom. Yeah,
it's fine. The only story
more likely he's going to be tricked into using the Venom so much by the Joker that
do the family of Joker story or whatever. Joker cuts his face off. Do that.
Death of a family.
Death of a family, whatever. Yeah.
I don't know if that works because he doesn't have a family.
I don't know. Just do some Just some shit. That's the only story I'm willing to see. But yeah, Batman addicted to Venom, and then you can bring Bane in.
Down the line. Well, do you want Bane again? Ugh.
But you
Not
don't do
Baned
Bane.
out.
You don't do Bane. You like introduce Bane, and he's like friends. He's like a druggy friend of Bruce, and he's not actually Bane yet. You know, like maybe by the end of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interesting ways it could go. Yeah.
Also, do they hint at Hush in this movie?
Do they?
I don't know. They're like, oh, this reporter trying to thing, kills him, and then comes up on the screen. They're like, hush money, and then they make sure they have the screen say hush, all this sort of stuff. Like, I don't know. Very specific.
Maybe.
wording
I
there.
thought originally the Riddler was going to be the reporter's son. That would be like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, that explains why he wants to kill everybody.
Yeah.
But no, he's an orphan. Or as Kylo Ren would say, he's a nobody.
That's true.
Yeah. But just wait, next film, he'll be related to somebody, because that's how...
See, I'm just trying to think.
blockbusters work.
I feel like if you want to talk future of this franchise, what is this film? This film is a detective Batman. That's what we're at.
Yeah.
This is what we're getting. Detective Batman. Can I do a good detective Batman Joker movie? No. Are there a bunch of cool
Probably.
detective? Yeah, but are there a bunch of other villains and storylines that are like more heavily detective
Don't
based?
you trust Matt Reeves at this point?
No, I'm just talking about what I want to see. I want to see, like, just do, like, the Long Halloween or, like, a proper version of that where the penguins and the mob and everything again and something like that. Do fucking Hush. You know, do some of these more mystery, detective-based storylines. That's my... If that's the direction this franchise goes, with being that sort of stuff, rather than Batman, big guy, beat-up villains sort of thing, which, you know, I can still watch him beat up villains, but... more around solving crimes and having to solve mysteries and stuff. That would be my interest would peak a lot more for Batman going forward if that was it, because it really separates this to previous trilogies or quadrilogies or whatever we end up with.
More versions, yeah. Yeah, hopefully whatever they decide to do next is more, you know, continues this line of detective focus. Does this... Weird segue. Does this make you interested in the potential Gotham PD TV show that apparently is coming to HBO Max?
It's got Jeffrey Wright in it, doesn't it?
I have no idea.
If it does, then yes. If it doesn't, maybe. I love this version of Gotham, though, I tell you that. It looks like absolute arse. And I love that. What a dump.
Last thing was reported, the showrunner has been replaced due to creative differences. And Wright and Pattinson, it was unclear if Wright and Pattinson would reprise their roles.
I don't even see Batman in that show. Like, maybe a cameo in the last episode for shits and gigs, but...
Also, apparently they're potentially working on a Penguin series.
Of course they are.
Which could be interesting.
I don't know. Have they said this relates to anything else DC related, or is this just its own Batman thing?
I think it's own universe.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that, but I was like, have I missed something? Well,
I mean, no.
it's hard to keep up because you don't know until you know.
I think it is definitely standalone. This Batman's going to be in its own corner for a while.
Yeah.
You know, the DC universe is, you know, it's a multiverse.
Even though
That's
Flash
what it
is
is.
literally about to come out and
Hang out with
Batmans
Michael
in it.
Keaton. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to do? Anything else you want to talk about from the Batman?
I know I already said it, but yeah, Skull's great, and cinematography's great, and it was really good. And I can't believe I remember when the reviews came out the other day, and some people complained this movie's too long. I don't feel like this was too long at all. I feel like this is that case of the movie needed to be this long, and it justified it. So.
Most of those crime movies are very long.
Yeah, exactly. So
It's just, you can't tell a good mystery in well, you can tell a good mystery in under an hour, but I think it's fantastic. I think I would think even people who don't like superhero movies might like this one.
Zodiac's 2 hours 37 minutes.
How long 7?
7 is fucking load, mate. 2 hours 7 minutes.
Okay.
So,
but they had to have the superhero stuff in top.
Yeah, and then add in the superhero stuff. Prisoners is 2 hours 33 minutes. You know, it's only like an extra 20 minutes.
Yeah. Extra 20 minutes.
And that's just the ending of the movie.
We'll say I'm happy, but also disappointed we didn't get to see how that rat cage thing worked.
Well, yeah, I feel like I really wanted to see it too, but that's just the horror fan of me. So, but yeah, I feel like they couldn't show it or else the rating would get bumped up.
Yeah, I think that's the thing fans are going to point at. It's like
the way they were describing it.
Yeah, pretty brutal. All right. Let us know what you thought of The Batman. Are you excited for the future of The Batman? What crazy spin-offs do you want to see? I mean, even apparently Matt Reeves brought up the possibility of a series based on Selena at the premiere press conference. So, who knows? But let us know what you think by going to explosionnetwork.com/Twitter or jump into a Discord at explosion.com/Discord. If you want to help us out here at What Do You Want to Watch, you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser, or give us 5 stars. Anywhere you can give 5 stars, or just tell people about the show. And if you like this episode, or the entire Road to the Batman, and thought it was worth $1, head on over to a Ko-fi page at explosion.com/support. Thank you very much for listening. Until next time, keep watching stuff, I guess.
I got you! I got you!
I also like how they weaved Ave Maria through the entire film and culminated in Paul Dano singing Ave Maria. And then in the credits, he's credited as singing Ave Maria.